Welcome to the DNX Show. We're here every Thursday. We talk about domain investing. We usually start, we do 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm a co-host, Todd Ryan. My other co-host is Josh Reason. So I'd like to start the show by saying, hello, Josh. How's everything going today?
What's up, man? All good here. Um, yeah, good week. Plugging along. How are things going with you?
Well, when I say I couldn't be happier, that's bullshit. I can always be happy around it. I've been pretty, I had a pretty good life, pretty blessed life, the whole time. Hey, Josh, so I saw this. You live in Jacksonville, right? Or you live on the outskirts? Would you consider it the suburbs? I'm not real familiar with how that city's set up, but is there
Yeah, a little bit south of Jacksonville.
so is there
Yeah,
north side of Jacksonville, west side, east side, south side, stuff like that?
yeah. I mean, I'm not officially in Jacksonville, but I'm kind of in between Jacksonville and St. Augustine.
I gotcha. Yeah, I heard it. I mean, I've been to both, and and I've had family that my brother lives now in New Smyrna Beach, and my nephew lives there as well. But I always had family in Leesburg. Got a big place there on some lake, and but when I was growing up in Indiana, went to Florida fucking 2 times a year. I mean, definitely for spring, but we snuck down there. You ever, when you're young, you sneak away and I was gonna spend the night over Steve's, and then we just fucking drove to Florida, but Daytona Beach, and then of course it became Fort Lauderdale and Miami area. Spent all the time there. And then, of course, we went across, and then Fort Myers was popular for a while, and Sanibel Island and that bullshit. But anyway, I love Florida because I don't live there. Hey, so there's Josh. I was this big news thing. This kid, he's in Jacksonville. He walks to Chick-fil-A. He's 5 years old. He gets up in the morning. He's hungry. Did you see that news story?
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, it just happened this weekend, but I thought it was funny. Kid got up and fucking left his house, and he's down at the Chick-fil-A telling him, yeah, I want this and I want this. And they fed him and he's sitting in a booth, but they call the cops on him, to find where he lives, and they're taking him out to the police car, the SUV to go find his home. And he goes, "You're not taking me to jail, are you?" I'd be asking the same thing. "Hey, you're not taking me to jail." They said no. They eventually find his house. I guess a real, white fence, but real secure. But yeah, anyway, I thought Jacksonville. That's the nicest things that happened in Florida. That's like the nice story. We know fucking Florida people. It's fucking crazy, you know. I mean, that's besides the
Ooh.
mosquitoes and alligators and stuff like that. Hey, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, how long have you lived there now in Florida?
Mm, gosh, coming up to 4 years.
Yeah. So did you live anywhere in the U.S. before that?
Yeah, I lived in LA,
That's what I thought I heard you
In
say.
Orange County.
Yeah, or Irvine area or something.
Yeah, I was in LA. I was in Century City for a while.
You
Uh,
really? I
and
mean, in a big
yeah,
building. This guy, when I was in LA, you throw it around like fucking gangster. Get back out here. I want to take you to some places. Well, we're in Century City because that's a beautiful area. I love that. I lived a couple miles from there before, but what were you
yeah,
doing
and
there?
then most of the time I spent in Westwood, to be honest.
Love it.
Um, yeah, yeah. No, it was nice. I mean, I stayed on the west side. I never went like nobody. I don't know what it's like now, but nobody ever went downtown. I was there for like I don't know 4 years. I went downtown maybe like twice.
Yeah,
Um, and then I moved down to Orange County and lived in Aliso Viejo for a bit and lived in Irvine for a bit.
cool. I mean, no, it's cool, but yeah, West Side. So I lived right 2 miles west of Westwood, there in the West LA area for back in the '90s, several years, and loved it. But I love LA. I mean, and it has certainly changed. I moved out here in '88, and I lived in Carson. Then I lived in West LA, and then I moved back. I bought a home in Hermosa Beach, and then I just lived in fucking Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach. I lived in a lot of places down in the South Bay, and anyway, I love LA. But yeah, definitely
LA is
changed.
cool, man, but I don't know. I think it's pretty like if you have a family, young family, I think it's pretty hard to give them all the things that I would want to give my family in LA. Just like for me personally, I just feel like it's, you have to be so freaking rich.
It is. It's really got out of control. I mean, for a lot of people that we do well, it still just doesn't make sense. But okay, so in real quickly in the '90s, in 1988, it was so cool, right? So I moved here just at the end of the really the coolness, in my opinion. But the '90s was wonderful, and it was not always more expensive than the rest of the country, but still, you could, people could, you move with your buddies, a couple of you can get a place, two or three of you guys, in a place in Manhattan Beach, and you're all renting a place, and it's fucking cool as ice, and fucking we loved it, and all of us lived, and the beach was cool. Manhattan Beach wasn't so uppity then, and then Hermosa Beach was like a surf town, and Redondo Beach was families. That was in the '90s, and all of a sudden, at the end of the '90s, started getting a little. We were like, well, this is getting expensive. People love these beach cities, but it was hard to get downtown and places like that. Then all of a sudden, after 2000, that decade, 2000 to 2010, started getting really expensive. You're like, this is fucking starting to, now you're starting to see, well, that's when we started seeing all of Los Angeles get expensive and all the gangsters. I bring that up because, yeah, it was basically you're pushing people out of LA, and that's when a lot of danger was heading to Vegas, and that's why Vegas is fucking trashed up now because we sent so many crooks over to Vegas, and they said you can't come back. Why can't you come back? Because you come back, the rent's fucking three times as much as it was. So anyway, it just started getting really expensive, and that was then. And then after 2010, then it was like fuck. Now only rich people can live in fucking Manhattan, down in the beach cities. And when I was young, that's where I just wanted to go right to the beach cities, and same with Santa Monica. That was just, of course, north of where I'm talking about, but Venice and so on. But same thing. It used to be cool as ice. Everybody can go down there. You work hard, you can afford it. Then all of a sudden, it just got too out of reach. 2010 to 2020. Now it's fucking red. Now it's fucking super expensive, and you just can't believe it. Now it's 2025. It's only kept going up. So now down at the beach, you don't have. Uh, I still have a lot of friends who are like, yeah, because my parents gave me this house fucking 30 years ago, but I can barely afford. I mean, it's just weird that it is got so expensive out here. And I had a nephew that was going to move. He wanted to come out here from New Smyrna Beach. He was like, I think I'm going to move to LA. And I'm like, you don't even have what job did you get? Think he's going to live with me for a while? Yeah, you can stay with me. You're going to have to get a job getting paid big. And if you get paid $1.50, let's say, you're going to be spending so much of it on just rent. And the final thing I'll say is when you're out here, all the whole time I've lived in uh, LA, you can't help yourself, especially if you're young. I'm not young anymore. You want to experience stuff. So you have all these places that you want to check out. And then, of course, from Vegas to skiing to, if you're somebody who likes to do it's real, you have access to a lot of it, but it's expensive. But you can't help yourself. You think, fuck, I'm living the dream. I'm right here in this city of angels. And it is wonderful. And I will say that people, you live here, and it's a lot different than when I'm back in the Midwest. When I'm back in the Midwest, I see people driving around the freeway. There's like they don't even think their dreams are going to come true. They're like, "Fuck, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to fucking run you off the road, and I'm going to go home, and I'm going to slap my kids or something." Here, at least if you're, no matter who you are, and I used to, hang with everybody. Everybody knows you're real close to your dreams. There's big money, and I loved it because also the finance capital of the world for U.S. is New York, but still, it's just big out here too. I mean, it's big. So anyway, I love but when people like to talk bad about it, well, fucking go ahead. I mean, unless unless even if I was here, even if you're here and you got beat up, it's almost like a very important part of our nation. So when people wish bad for California, I think it's like fucking wishing bad for your brain because you're the fucking heart. You fucking whatever. Okay, so I'm glad everybody's here joining us. Raise your hand, come on stage. We got a lot to talk about. Josh, before you got here, I was saying, I wonder what your best.com was that you hand registered and sold. Do you recall that?
Um, cool. I'm not sure exactly, but the one that stands out to me as my favorite was uh SOLOFI.com, solofi.com. Um, I hand registered it for like $5 pretty early on, um, in my in my domaining career, and then Fidelity bought it for like 10 grand. They just hit the buy it now. That was like, I think that was my first 5-figure buy it now sale. Um, so that was my favorite. And I was actually thinking about that name just the other day because, um, you know, to be able, imagine being able to register a name like that today. You just can't, right? And it wasn't that long ago. That was 2015, 2016. You can register SOLOFI.com. It's like, I mean, I registered a few of them and they all sold. I think I registered SONOFI.com, just a bunch of like CVCV followed by FI. I don't have any anymore. So I don't know if I must have sold a few of them. I probably wholesaled some of them. Um, but yeah, that was my favorite one.
Yeah, I think those are good types to look for now in the expired or in the aftermarket if you can get good price. Because you're right, they're definitely not available. But 6 letter CVCV with a cool ending, and you said FI, it's a great one. If anybody could get CO, of course, things like that. Hey, we got a couple people on stage. Dave, before I get to you, my LA brother, Insane Domain. I don't know if it was a mistake, but you raised your hand early on. I brought you up here. It's good to see you.
Yes, I'm here just waiting for the right time to speak.
I fucking like that. The guy's like, Todd said, let's participate. He wants participation. Motherfucker's getting participation. Insane. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. So, yeah, chime in
I
when you
just
think's
saw
appropriate.
some people started getting domain agencies instead of agentive. What do you think?
Yeah, Jenik, I was going to say, yeah, to chime in when appropriate, and then you fucking cut me off. Just kidding. Hey, yeah, no, we'll talk about that. Agenic, names agenic with agenic in it, because also we were going to talk, one of my topics was the AI as a prefix or a suffix in .com names. But first, I want to go to Dave, because Dave's going to say something about LA, about people, it's like throwing punches at the champ and stuff like that. But Dave, nice to see you. What's up?
Hey, you as well, Todd. No, you were on that LA subject, man, and I've just got to say I've traveled quite a bit all over the country and even outside the country. And honestly, man, for me, I can't think of a better place that I'd want to permanently be. Visit everywhere, but permanently, I just love LA. Anyway, that was it. Glad to see you.
Yeah, nice seeing you too. And we will make a point to. It's cooling down, but cross paths get together. I know your office is not far from me, but I'm gonna head over, just take you to lunch sometime, Dave. I really appreciate it. I mean that all the talks that we've had in the past, but of course we'll talk domains, right? Um,
Yeah, I mean, listen, if Braden can spend a few minutes with me, you can. Let's go. You just call me up. Short notice is okay.
yeah, did your office is not far from Braden's. He's got an office there, and
Yeah,
his
you can walk from my office to his office.
yeah, he's got a beautiful spot and a beautiful house and everything right there. I know, but very nice. You live in a nice spot. You have an office in a nice spot. But yeah, Dave, that's cool. Um, yeah. So we'll get right to it. But anyway, shit, I love that, Josh. That I was wondering. I know I said we've all hand registered other extensions and had great sales. I mean, what I mean getting at is there's a lot of availability in hand registering alternate extensions. .coms. It's tough going now to hand reg. So you're right. 10 years ago, you picked up Solo 5. That's pretty cool. Um, Dave, while we have you here, what's the best hand reg? You've been doing it a long time. Best hand reg .com that you picked up and sold. I mean, money wise.
Oh man, I'm in my car, so I hand reg quite a bit, and a lot of the names that I sell are hand reg names. I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head, honestly, Todd.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at the list, and see which one, was something that I hand registered and sold, and but most of my sales are names that I originally registered. So I do get names that I picked up at expired auctions or what, but most of them are hand reg names, and usually I marry the names for a couple of years. I know it's going to take a little time, so because I don't try to flip them or anything, I just throw them in there and let them age a little bit, and So I'm looking, a year down the line, 2 years down the line with a lot of the hand reg names. I mean, I've actually been tossing around the idea of just flipping some of them and see how that goes, but there's nothing where I mean, because I have done that and I've seen some names that actually went on to sell for quite a bit, and it just that burns me just a little bit. So I'm always nervous about selling hand reg names right away.
Well, before you go on about flipping real fast, because I know Josh and I have opinions on this. So, how do you flip a name real fast? Do you just lower the price and you think it's going to go? Well, because my experience
Well,
is you go from 7,000 to 2,000, and it doesn't speed up things that fast. You
no,
still,
no, for me flipping. What I'm referring to more is okay. I pay $5 to $7, maybe $10 for a name, and I'm selling it for 3, 4, maybe 5x. Not a lot of money, under $100. Just quick flips. Just say, hey, I created this name. I think it's good. Here, I've looked at some data, but I'm not. I don't want to necessarily sit around and wait for an end user or somebody to come around and pay, 4 figures for it. I'd rather just move on. So I'm looking at doing that with some names because when you have 100 names, it's you don't have it's not very many, but when you have hundreds, thousands of names, it's you just it's
sure. What are
I
you
forget names
doing
I
it
have. I
on
just
Name
gotta get
Pros? Where are you flipping?
yeah, name pros.
Right, because I know you're there. All right, hey,
Yeah.
well, we're going to talk about Josh. So, insane brings up agenic, and I was going to bring up AI as a prefix or a suffix. So, agenic is that mostly a prefix or a suffix? Because no one's going to get agenic.com or and what do you think about agenic with the AI extension? Basically, the word agenic, it's fucking come from nowhere. Now we got agent to me is cool. Agenic. Fuck. Okay, so it's popular. I mean, but what do you think about that word as a prefix, suffix, and with .ai and other extensions?
Um, I love it. I think it's a obviously it's the prefix in this case. It doesn't work well really on the end of most things, so it wouldn't work well as a suffix in my opinion. Um, unless unless you went plural and turned it into agentics and it became like robotics. So, but that's a big TBD. That's not something that you want to speculate on. Um, in terms of agentic as just like the primary brand, I think it's good. I think it's obviously very, very popular at the moment. Whether or not that continues is, remains to be seen. Um, I think that the point to make here is that I wouldn't get carried away with trending keywords like that. Um, just if you're in domains, try to focus on brands that have kind of withheld the test of time. Um, what I mean by that is just brand names or keywords that have been used in the 90s and the 2000s and 2010s, 2020s, for a variety of different industries, regardless of what's hot and what's not. An example of that would be something like Bloom or I don't know, Forward or any kind of brand name that has a lot of usage. But yeah, I mean, agentic names are certainly hot right now. You can certainly make money with them.
I was looking to agenify. I mean, everything that's even remotely close to agenics and with I don't know if it's because of agenic, but it has agent in it, but just so many things registered and gone insane. You brought it up. Well, have you been buying some of them on the aftermarket or only hand registering names with agenic in it? What are your feelings? I mean, are you doing it?
I just go for hand registers. Maybe because I don't have the cash flow right now to buy from others, so I just look for the cheapest at the moment.
Yeah, a lot of people in the same shoes. One, if you're not real familiar with the term, or it's a new trending term, you might not want to spend a lot. And plus, we like to look for. There's got to be a lot of, Josh, if you said agenic at the beginning, this was a great example of a trending word that there probably is some great, 2 words to it, agenic, something else, and right, some things make more sense than others. But what are you doing, Josh? With regards to buying them, are you, looking through expired or looking through available hand reg? I know you use your own tool.
No, not really.
Yeah.
The good hand registrations for agentic are gone. So I'm not really interested in that. They've been mined massively at this point. You needed to get into that about a year ago in order to have a chance at mining some good hand registrations in that area. If I see a good if I see a good TLD that agentic goes with, then I would buy it. I did buy one the other day, agentic.money, purely speculative. It was, I don't know, $100, something like that. I could see it being, something to do with agentic trading, agentic money management, something along those lines. But do I think that it'll sell? Probably not. Am I betting my house on it? No.
And what's a money renewal? Just $20?
Yeah, I think it was just like a regular renewal.
Well, you posted something about you had some sales already in September. I think it was the first of the month. You said that 2 things came in or something like that. Anything that you can share?
Yeah, I've had a good start to the month. Join the Discord community if you want to see the sales.
Okay. No, I am part of it. I didn't. So, why don't you let people know about this inner community and who's allowed to join and how do they get an invite?
Everyone's allowed to join. I posted it on my timeline. I'm sorry, timeline on my X. I guess it's a timeline profile. It's pinned. So all you have to do is click on the link, the Discord link, and you can join. Yeah, anyone who's involved or interested in the domain space can join, and we're just sharing freely, people sharing some knowledge, sharing some sales, talk about domains. I think that the reason why I did it is just people, including yourself, have been talking to me and asking me so many times, like, are there private groups and whatnot that I can go and discuss domains in? Like, not everyone wants to do it on Twitter or X. I just figured it was probably worth opening one up. So I did so.
Yeah, you're a little like a Jim Jones or a David Koresh. You want followers, and then who knows where you're going to lead us. Yeah, that wasn't a compliment.
I mean, I'll lead you to the promised land, Todd.
I fucking lost my mind. A bunch of people, we want people to comment. We got Dave and we got Insane in the Membrane here. We're fucking going off crazy today. Josh, well,
By the way,
yeah, go ahead, Dave.
by the way, Todd, I'm at my office now, so I can tell you. Yeah, hand reg's recent hand reg sales. Looking at after Nick, so I hand reg dwellit.com, sold for $2,400. I hand registered smartsanitize.com. That sold for. I'm sorry, Dwellit sold for $3,000. I got $2,400. Smart Sanitize I sold for $32.99. Hand reg. Abbreviated World, so WRLD.org. I sold that for $4,000. Hand reg that. Let's see. Unite Us was interesting. I hand reg that. It was just a brandable UNYTUS. That sold for $750. I sold before after. So it's just 2 words, before after.org. I hand registered it at $850, sold at $850 at after Nick. Hi Dojo. Sold for $300, no big deal. Ion, here's a good one though. Ion CA, so IONCA.com. Hand reg that is sold for 4,000. So yeah, I mean, these are pretty. I mean, these are good. You know, they were all hand registered names. I mean, I could go on. Most of them are for me. So, but yeah, those are some good ones. Identity and the number $899 is in this list here. Theothers.org, $1299. ITOEX.com sold for $1,995 on my first little list here. So yeah, these don't spread. Don't spread.com, $499. I hand reg that. So yeah, I do a lot of hand regs and they sell. I mean, but you know, I've got about maybe, I don't know, 1,000 or so. So, you know, I just look at the numbers. I mean, I just kind of play the numbers game because I have another business, you know, that I do mainly. Not domaining is like a little side thing for me. So, but I love it. I'm very passionate about it. But yeah, the hand registers work for me.
What'd you notice there, Josh? I noticed a couple 5-letter, sort of pronounceable whatever that one was, and then the Ionca. I mean, of course, it
Yeah,
could
the
be.
Ionca, IONCA. Yeah, that's old. Actually, ABG.US. I don't think I hand reg that though. ABG US 2500. I didn't do it. Emotive US. I didn't hand reg that. But yeah, you know, but the ones I mentioned were hand registered for sure. And yeah. Oh, and you know, there's another one. The Predictors. The Predictors. I hand reg that, and it sold for 2,400, 23.99.
Yeah, he's talking about the last 20 years because this can't be in the last year. Anyway, Dave, no, I mean, it's unbelievable because that's the most difficult of all. Let's just face the music. I mean, Arif does a great job of finding expired names, and I realize when you're finding expired names, deleted names, names that we absolutely know have been registered before. We know there was interest by somebody somewhere, even if it was another investor. That it seems that it seems likely that you'd have a little bit better sell through rate. It seems like it doesn't necessarily mean with a hand register that they've never been registered before, because people always say that. Well, why do you think it's available? It could have been registered 20 years, dropped, and available for 2 years, and then you pick it up, and the buyer, might have checked 3 years ago and thought, this thing's still registered. I've been checking this thing for years. I guess my point is, hand registered names are not always, you're the first time anybody's ever owned it, but it is very difficult to hand reg names and then, I mean, sell them quickly. I've had to hold, so many. My portfolio is 20 years old. Well, Dave, so you sell names $499, $799, $1299, $2,500. I mean, I love it. Were those names that under 1,000, are those buy it now on Afternic or someplace else?
Yeah, so I mean, recently I have done some changes with my domains. I For 10 years I worked pretty much exclusively with Afternic. I did not really submit anything to Adam or Dan or anything. It's just I just kind of put them in Afternic and had a rep that I would work with, and that was it. More recently, I have changed some landers over to Spaceship to test it. I had a sale, maybe two, um, but I still have my names listed with Afternic, and I but those sales were Afternic for sure. Let me see. The one that I think sold with Spaceship was a hand registered name. Oh yeah, it
Yes.
was. It was, a matter of fact, that was a recent hand register. That was that AI name, the first one. But yeah, I mean, Afternic, to answer your question, yeah, Afternic sold these names, or got them sold through their system. Now, of course, I'm not looking at my other spreadsheet, which has like names that I proactively sold through name pros and stuff, or 4Ls. I mean, I've sold a lot of
Yes.
four-letter.coms, but not through Afternic. I mean, those were mostly just sales on name pros and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm back. I think my audio is even louder. What do you think, Jeremiah? Hey, Josh, before we go to Arif, anything surprising there? I guess what I'm getting at is, boy, a lot of sales for less than 2,500, less than 3,000, 4,000. I love to hear it because I know, you can hand register names. You can put a buy it now. And, I mean, I guess sounds like a lot of activity at the lower prices, and it's ways to, ways for anyway, a beginner can more mimic what Dave is doing there, because we can all hand register and we can all, create a buy it now on Afternic with a, lower price. But any thoughts or comments there? Okay, finish your cereal. Arif, what do you think about my comment about, difference between, expired, hand registering,
Yeah,
which is more difficult?
yeah, I was going to comment on that. That's it's so here's the thing. Just because somebody had it before doesn't in any way mean that it's good. However, again, it's one is better than zero, right? Especially when you're starting out. Most people hand reg really, really, really bad domains, right? And if somebody registered one before doesn't mean it's not really bad. Like, on average, these days when I'm an active buyer, I'm buying 10 to 15 domains per day, but you got to keep in mind there's 50,000 of them, right? So most of them are junk and some of them go for too expensive, right? And then you have that middle ground, or the closeouts that fall through the cracks. Those are the ones I like, but they're very few and far between. You have to really dig pretty deep. But yeah, just because somebody thought of them before doesn't automatically mean it's a good domain. There's like, out of the 50,000 that expire at GoDaddy every day, there's maybe about 48,000 that are like totally not worth buying at all, even for $1 type of thing, right? And then again, there's a couple of thousand that go to auction or people snag at closeout. But yeah, it is good to know that somebody else did think of it, right? It's like you can't go too wrong when you also do the research, like Josh says. You got to look into it and whatever it is. Or just like for me, my main research tool is Google, right? I just go to Google and I see, is that term used in business, or is it a popular term that people are using for, I guess the term is like in business or culture or whatever it is, but that's what we want to look at. And, it is a little bit of an extra, but it's only when you're starting out. Like, it's really because hand regs, I just see so many bad ones, but it doesn't mean you can't hand reg and be successful. Like, look what just Dave was talking about, right? So it's all possible. You just got to be careful what you buy.
Yeah. I noticed a few weeks ago, Josh had mentioned about LLL.io that he sold a while ago. And then, of course, we all know about those .ais that he sold. I can't remember, MNM or MMN or something bullshit, to him for 50,000. I was thrilled for him. I was happy when that happened. Okay, so Josh, this LLL.io, have you had any success with other .ios, and or do you invest in three-letter in a lot of other extensions? Tell us about the short ones.
I don't think that was me. He must be confusing me with someone else, because yeah, no success
Did you
investing in
yeah.
LLL.io. I have sold plenty of .io names, um, but no LLL.ios.
I actually thought it
Um,
was I actually thought it was the domain LLL.io, so I must have written it, but I had it for like
oh,
3 to 4 weeks here on my
1111.io.
oh yeah, well, I must have,
I'm pretty sure that's what you're referring to. Yeah, I
yep.
sold that one. I sold that one last year for 10 grand. I've sold I didn't honestly, considering how many good .ios I had, I didn't have that much success with them. Um I sold I sold prompt.io before that was a very expensive name. Um I think I sold it for like 10 grand, but that was 5, 6 years ago. Um like better sales, I sold hunt.io for 55K. Um, I've never had a six-figure.io sale. Um, but
This guy. I never had
yeah,
a six-figure.io. Well,
I
then
mean,
I'm going to put you down at
I've
amateur.
spent a lot. I've spent a lot on .ios. Like, that's the expectation.
Well, that 111, yeah, that's right. So, because I got a couple bullshit ones, three number.coms, and remember 4number.coms and so on. So valuable at a certain point. Three number still are. I mean, they all are compared to say a four letter. At least four numbers have a much, healthier floor. But so these three number.ios, anything there? You just had a good one, but do you ever invest in
No,
three number.ai, three number.io? Nothing.
no, nothing. I like if you're looking at 3Ls right now, high quality 3L.ai is where I would be placing my bets. I posted the two that sold in that like back to back scenario a few weeks ago. Um, I've actually got another one right now that might sell in the same range. Just in kind of like the tail end of negotiations, but um, I guess if you're serious about investing right now, I I'm inclined to agree with the post recently made by Andy Booth. That is that you should probably honestly just be placing your chips in AI. It doesn't if you're anti dot AI, that's fine. Place your bets in AI.com or names that would appeal to an AI dot company, or even AI names in other extensions like .org. But I do think that the amount of interest that is prevalent in the .ai extension right now is absolutely, so like it's something that I haven't seen yet in this space. So
We want to know the next one. I mean, but okay, so you're talking about, Andy said there's more upside in .ai, and then they brought up velocity.ai versus bewell.com. And he's like, velocity dot, I think did they both go for about the same, 65 grand, 55 grand, or something like
yeah,
that?
yeah, we'll call it the same. I'm not 100% sure if I agree with this. I know where he's going with that. I know, like the point that he's making is that there's a lot more momentum and interest in these very, very high end .ai names than there are in, even some of the top .com names, like bewell.com. Bewell is an incredible name. But if you owned it, I think that you would probably get less like medium level interest in that name than you would if you owned velocity.ai. That doesn't mean that I would rather have velocity.ai at that price over bewell.com, because I wouldn't. I think that, in terms of like the ability to sell that name for high six figures, I think that bewell.com, the chances of that happening, in my opinion, are a lot higher than the chances of like velocity.ai selling in that high six figure range. Um, but I do think that you would get a lot more interest in velocity.ai as opposed to bewell.com. Does that make sense?
No, but thanks for asking.
Well,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
doesn't
no, it
make
does.
sense
It
about
does.
it? So
It
that
does. No, no. I see what you're saying. So velocity.ai is probably going to have a lot of people attracted to it, but bewell.com, quality name and big industry, we know could be healthcare. Obviously, a lot of wellness, that you're saying could be 800,000. Go for a lot of money, 700,000, when there may be more people interested in velocity.ai but not paying as much. So yeah, it does make sense, but I don't know if that's not true for a lot of names. Usually the more interest a name has by more people, the higher price it seemed like it would be. I'm trying to think of examples, Josh, of something where like everybody loves, and it could be, I say everybody loves well, trying to think what's a name, names that a lot of people will pick up for low amounts because they want them, but yet there's a lot of interest in them, but yet there's less interest in something else. You give me another example.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, there's a lot of momentum in AI right now, and like most of these companies, they want to get a .ai domain, and when you look at a brand like Velocity, it's a very widely used brand. A lot of companies want to start up, are looking at names like Velocity, so the chances that they're going to look at Velocity.ai are just extremely high. That's it's as simple as that, really. It doesn't necessarily mean that name is a more valuable name than BeWell.com. I don't think it is. But there
Don't
would
talk
be a
to me
lot
like you
more
talk to your
interest in it.
kids. Don't talk to me like that. It's as simple as that, you little. Hey, no, I know what you mean. I know what you mean, though, because right, I could see a lot of companies looking at now, but still, if Be Well was at a lower price, I mean, say they were both offered for $150, 150,000, just 3 times what people paid for them. Which one, which one would go faster? You're saying right now, basically, I think
Yeah,
you
I
and
think
Andy
that
were
if you
saying the same
price
thing.
Velocity, I think if you price Velocity.ai at like 150K, I think they would probably go faster. Yeah.
Well, what about these, Velocity AI and AI Velocity? Everybody's wanting to, they just want to believe in their bullshit. They want to believe that it is good to have it before or after. It is different than the .ai. I think in most all cases, I would have said, initially 5 years ago, to have AI as part of your .com was more valuable, maybe more attractive. Maybe I would have said that. I was so fucking not watching. But now it looks like the .ai, because it's the only other extension that really has real movement, basically real 6 and 7. I think there's been a 7-figure sale in .ai, right? But anyway, the Velocity AI or AI Velocity, what do you think of those names? But dramatically different than Velocity.ai.
Yeah, I mean, listen, uh, am I allowed to speak like that? When I say that, I'm speaking to the audience. I'm not talking to you like you're my child, Todd. Don't worry. Um,
I know, I'm
I'm. It's
joking.
just the way. It's just the way that I talk, man.
I know. Are you
Um,
kidding? I'm trying to have fun. Push back. I know that. Come on, I'm gonna see you in fucking November. You gonna fucking treat me bad? No, let's go ahead.
Listen here, sir. The like AI followed by brand is not a thing, in my opinion. Like names that work. That's one. It would be like AI coding, right? It's descriptive. Um, but when you're naming a company, it's either brandai.com or brand.ai. I wouldn't venture much further than that. If you want to get real dicey with it, you could add a couple hyphens in there, but I would stick to those two. I would forget about AI at the front.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
like
point.
the
But
grammar really
yeah, go ahead.
needs to make sense, right? Like if you had something like AIexperts.com, that works, right? But AI expert doesn't. Well, I mean, that's expert's a weird name word because it works both ways often. But you
Yeah,
got to know
those
what,
do.
what works. You got to know what works grammatically, right? Like if AI velocity, like if you're going to start a blog or some podcast talking about how fast AI is growing, then the grammar works there. But like as a brand, velocity AI is the one you want, right? And Josh, I think your post the other day, I think we are at the point now we have to concede that velocity.ai is the bigger of the two between velocityai.com and velocity.ai, although both are good and you'd obviously want both. But I think at this point, the one word .ai is kind of
Oh, we weren't comparing those two. We were comparing
no, I know.
bewell.com. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, be
I mean
well.
I've said this
Yeah,
all along that
I mean,
.ai
3 years
is.
ago, 3 years ago was a different answer in my opinion, but today it's there. And yeah, but Be Well is just a monster. Like that's just epic name. But like here's the thing, Todd, to answer your question, like if I was offered one, right? And I only had one domain for the rest of my life and I could sell it, but that's it, no other domains, it would be Well for sure, right? But if I was able to take whatever money in the sale and reinvest it, then velocity.ai I think would be to what Josh was saying, right? Be the faster flip, right? Maybe not as much, but
Yeah,
we're in a next year or two. I think we're in that time when it's AI stuff. There's gonna be a lot of new companies coming out and good money in them, and that's where you want to be.
I agree with that.
By the way, anybody, we're talking about domain investing. I know I go through topics each week and I got plenty to cover today. But if you have a domain investing comment or topic or question, raise your hand. Come on up because, I'd like to hear what is top of mind of some of you domain investors that are out there. Like, what's going on today? I was going to, there's so many things happening on X. Um, you know, was going to bring up a couple weeks ago about domain sales posted on X. And, I always get frustrated when people post and you don't see the domain name or you don't know a lot of the story. But the truth is, I've seen enough data to know that there are, great sales and a lot of different extensions, but basically I don't have to believe everyone. I know domain sales, we know they happen. So I appreciate now, I think more so, just any random bullshit somebody wants to post. It strikes questions in your head anyway. I don't like someone who intentionally, fabricates or just lies, because that always bothered me. Anybody just not telling the truth, because I hate, I start thinking about things and start going down a path, and it's like, why would you fucking waste my time like that? Now, if somebody's just not giving you all the information, well, all right, that's a different issue than somebody just lying about a sale completely. So I do appreciate all the data that's out there, and I do understand some people. I'm getting into the camp where want to, I'll share less because in public. So Josh, I'm glad you set up the inner community on Discord, although I don't use Discord much. A media wizard, what's going on, Summit?
Hey, Hey, Josh. Actually, I wanted to talk to Josh about a conversation we had in a X post where he said that, get both kind of thing for velocity.ai and bewell.com. The point is, not very many people play at that level, even in the domain industry. I can literally count, maybe I don't know everybody, right? But at least the visible people, I can basically count them on both my hands. There may be 10, 15 people in the whole industry who would buy a name for 50,000 to flip. Josh is saying buy them all.
Wait, what did I say?
There was some conversation about velocity.ai or Bewell, the same conversation you're having now.
Yeah.
Someone said you should buy both, and you were like, yeah, buy both. Buy both means 10 names like that, and you're $500,000 down there.
Wait,
Not very many people are selling for 6 figures.
where did I say this? I want to know where I said this. I said buy both.
Yeah, no, I don't know what. I lag on. I'll post the thread.
I don't think that I said that, but I'm very well aware that that people, including myself, can't just go spending 50 grand every time a good domain comes up at auction. But I'm also aware that while I think that if I could just go on autopilot, right, and not have to like do anything, right, but someone, this scenario was given by Tony Names the other day, right? Like someone gives you 10 million, right, and you could just and you have to spend it on autopilot. You can't really make any decisions. But let's say that you could make a decision. Maybe you could make the decision that you can either go for like names under a certain threshold or over a certain threshold. For me, I would pay all day. I would rather be the top bidder for all these type of names that we're talking about, like the velocity.ais, the bewell.com, all of these names where that gains like so much attention on X because people are like, oh my gosh, there must be end users bidding, like this is way too much. Like I would much rather buy those, like go spend all of my budget on those names as opposed to spend all of my budget on like the $200-$300 names that everyone thinks they're getting amazing value on. And I wouldn't have told you that like 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. I would have said the complete opposite. So while I understand that people can't go out and buy those, I do think that there is a lack of awareness into just how valuable those names are, and and I think that we, like, the topic was surrounded by sell-through rates, right? And someone mentioned that I saw someone mention that when you get into the higher names, that your sell-through rate drops drastically, which is like something that is the complete opposite from reality. And I think that if you're finding that you're buying what you consider to be higher value names, and your sell-through rate is dropping compared to your inventory lower level portfolio, then what's happened is you've most likely not bought a super premium name, and that name is not warranting the price that you believe you know that you've placed on it. Meaning, like, you think that you've bought a high six-figure or seven-figure name, when actually maybe it's just a $100,000 name. But when you get into names that really are top of the top, and let's continue to use velocity.ai and bewell.com, especially bewell.com, like, that name at some point will sell for six figures if the owner is willing to sell it for six figures. It's not like a oh, there's a 3 or 4% chance, or a 5% or a 10%. No, it's like 99% chance. Like, it's almost a certainty. Now, if you're looking to hold out for $1 million, the chance goes down, right? But if you just want to get 150K back from that name, it's going to sell at some point.
Yeah, in principle, I agree with you. I have no dispute. In fact, if I'm correct in the data I have, is like that's how Andy Booth and James Booth actually scaled. They
That's
were
right.
buying super premium names at liquid prices and selling them for minuscule profits because they were liquid at the price they were buying them at. That's what you're saying, right? To paraphrase.
Yeah, well, not really. It's not. I'm not even talking about flipping. Like, no, I'm not even talking about flipping or liquid to investors at this point, right? I mean, I just to be perfectly honest about this, Andy and James, I've learned a lot from them, and I still talk to Andy a lot, and I still learn a lot from him. And he tells me all the time, when you figure something out, he always tells me that I need to, like, trust myself and go with it, as opposed to hesitating and then looking back and saying, well, should have done this, should have done that. But he is an expert in identifying top names, and then putting his money where his mouth is in that situation. And the reason why, and, like, he sells every name that he owns. Like, he he always sells it, and it's not because he's flipping them, it's because he's buying great names and willing to sell them for profit that is necessarily 10x. Sometimes it's not even 5x, but it doesn't mean that he's flipping them, like, at wholesale. He's not wholesaling many names, really. He will. But what he's really looking for is dollar earned, right? He's trying to make money. So if he buys a domain that he believes is, top name, one that is really hard to acquire. And what I mean by that is, like, if you go to DNX.com right now and you look for a name, of that caliber, you're not going to find one below, like, 500K, right? So if he finds one hunting at, like, 200, he knows there's nothing even close to that quality on the market for less than 500. you know he can get out. Like, there's a very high chance of him selling that name for 400 or 500K. And if he holds it, and if he's willing to hold it for a lot longer, then it'll sell for more. there's just something that is it's somewhat hard for people that haven't purchased these type of names to understand, but they're and this is why like Drew goes on and on about it, and I understand why a lot of people don't really like it almost sounds like silly. It's like, why are you talking about this so much? 99.99% of us that are trying to play in this space don't have the ability to buy these type of names. But it doesn't change the fact that as a domain investor, you should understand that those names are the goal. Those names are the best bets, and if you can acquire those type of names, you should. That's what you should be striving for, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like, I'm in a phase right now where, for many years I've been, doing the closeouts and whatever it is, and it's worked for me, right? And it's slow and steady. What I do like about having it, the closeout stuff, is I have volume, and with volume, you have a little bit more stability and predictability. However, exactly to your point, like once you get into those higher names, it's all supply and demand, right? You have so much more control of your destiny. Your velocity goes further, right? Sure, the multiples are not the same, but the dollar amounts are just as interesting, right? And even more. And that's where it really comes into play. But as you said, like once you get in those 5-figure and 6-figure and 7-figure names, you can control your own path, right? You can probably sell it for close to what you bought it for. In worst case scenarios, you want to liquidate. I can't say the same thing for my portfolio, right? I got to do a lot of work, and it's there might be a buyer for my whole entire portfolio at some point, right? But I got to list them all. I got to make sure the pricing's right and all that stuff. But like velocity.ai or bewell.com, I mean, you just put out the word, and within a week you'll have somebody who will pay you easily what you bought it for, most likely, right? And so again, it comes down to supply and demand, and those higher tier domains, like you're going to sell them faster. That's where I'm slowly creeping up. Like I'm going a few domains at auction here and there, and I'm hoping to flip them in order to exactly do that. Buy a domain at some point in the 5 figures and sell it in the 6 figures, right? That you said it should be the goal of everybody.
And yeah, I mean, and it doesn't necessarily, I mean, I know some very successful investors that have a business that runs on autopilot, low value names, and they're not interested in getting into high value names. Like that's fine, but most of them also recognize that that those are very strong names that have the least risk going forward in terms of from like an investment standpoint. And I think that one thing that is important to mention is, so someone I know and follow on Twitter said, even with a proven track record, there's a lot of misleading information because people are biased by what they're holding, right? And that couldn't be more true. It's definitely true. There's a lot of bias on what people are holding, and you gotta take things with a grain of salt. But in this particular case, I registered 4,000 names last month. Um, Bottom of the barrel, $6.50 each. So I'm not saying go collect, don't buy any hand registrations, don't buy any names at auctions, save your money and go and buy a oneword.com. I'm just relaying information that I believe to be true.
Well, run that back. You registered 4,000 names.
What's that?
For
How
six,
many?
you registered 4,000 names last month.
Yep.
Okay, well, we're going to talk
650, I'm
about
gonna guess
that.
they're
I
all
mean,
how
but I
much?
wanted to just say, Josh,
Yeah, can we get a list?
well, well, we're going to talk about that right now. But I just wanted to comment it when you talk about it. It only makes sense, and I always say it, and just because I liked how it sounded, but it is true. The best names, they're the first ones to go up, the last ones to come down, and that's not really what I mean. And it's specific, but what I'm saying is they're like the safest, and that's why the guys that spend the most. We bring up Braden a lot because of the money that he spends and the amount per name. He seems like less worried about the names. He's concerned, worried about his capital that's involved, but he knows he still feels it's much safer than he'll look at a lot of the lower value names and the risks that we take, especially and he thinks, geez, well, that's riskier than what I'm doing. But Josh, there's a lot of guys who have a portfolio, okay, and maybe it's 50 names, maybe it's 500 names or more, and then they'll spend big money on 3 or 4 names. Say they got 3 or 4 really premium names in their portfolio. Well, if they price those names, those are my 3 best ones. So they price those at 1.5 million, 2.5 million, and 2 million. They might have a zero sell through rate on their true premium names because they just hold them. It's the pricing, and I think you sort of alluded to that and mentioned it, that you do have a much higher sell through rate if you're appropriately pricing. But if anybody can think that they buy a premium name, go out there and just, like, I spent 50,000, I'm asking 2.5 million. You may not, that's not what you're
Yeah,
saying about having a
if
high
you
sell
if
through rate.
you if you really have been able to hone, and by the way, again, this is a big if, right? Because some people will spend 25-30K on what they believe to be a super premium name, and it's not. So there's a big if there. But if you are able to buy a top name for, you've got 500 names, you add 3, like you're talking about, 3 great names, and you price them all at $1 million. Maybe you've priced them too high. The good news is that purely as from holding those over the next 5 years or whatever, they're probably going to go up in value anyway. So there is that as well. Like, these names at the higher level, they go up. They're continuing to rise in value at a phenomenal rate. So
We haven't seen
more
anything
more
different.
more than more than like the low level names, although those have certainly been going up in value too, but they're just a lot less liquid.
But where the advantage is there is that it's the liquid price that's going up, right?
Right.
Whereas for like the stuff I'm getting, it's cost me $10 a year, and yeah, the value, retail is going up slowly and surely, but not quite at the same rate. But the liquid is not, it's just, for me, the liquid value isn't really, it's not significant, right? My costs are basically $10 a year, and what are my sales? And in the end of the day, it's profit.
Yeah, and naming, the thing is like, things at the top end don't really change too much, right? What was a great 7-figure name 10, 15 years ago is still a great 7-figure plus name today. At the lower end of the spectrum, like, naming patterns they do change, right? So, like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years ago, or 5 or 6 years ago, putting get as a prefix before your brand was like super hot. Now it's like, then there was like try and use, and now suddenly we're starting to see like people change to with, like, with this and with that, and like, you know
And also,
startups,
also the
yeah,
alternate
startups are
PLD.
creative. They can, like, at the low level there are so many alternatives, like, there's so many things that can dilute the value of your names, and at the top there are not.
Yeah, like Join is a good one. But anyway, meta names were not ever really hot, but they certainly, you could sell a few. I sold a few 4 years ago, and then all of a sudden, where are they now? But anyway, Josh. So anyway, 4,000 names. What extension? What were you doing? What sectors? What groups? What keywords? Tell us some things.
um I can't tell you everything because I'm not done yet with this experiment.
That's okay. I was gonna say, oh
But
yeah,
I
you
can
got them
tell,
all.
I can say that they're all .com, um and none of them are like made up brandables. They're all like keyword names.
This is unbelievable. I mean, somebody needs to go to your house and hold you down and get it out of your pockets, because we know it's not
Where
drone
did
or
you find
clone or
4,000
something.
keyword domains?
I you know
If
I think that I could register. I think that I could register another 4,000, pretty easily. It takes some time.
but you know,
Okay, so if you can't tell us what the names
it's
are,
just about studying. It's just again, it's just about like studying naming conventions and like what people like, how people are branding, and then you know, diving into the data and seeing what's available.
If you guys go back and listen to Josh over the last year, I guarantee
Yeah,
you, you will not be
exactly.
surprised. You will not be
Arif
surprised.
knows that I've already talked about this, right? Many times. I just, you know, and how I go about like my naming conventions is just I mean I honestly have laid it out on the table a million times. I just
Yeah.
I don't want to lay it out right now just
The
because I'm
only
actively doing it.
yeah,
Okay,
the only real
I'll
question
wait
I
until
have
tell
is
me.
like, how did you generate it? You used AI to kind of just generate the combos, or
Um
you have to give up your system you don't want. But I'm just that's the only
no,
like
no,
that
no,
me.
I'm just trying to figure out the best way to kind of explain it. No, I did it all. No AI. It's done all manually. Obviously there's various ways that I've used to filter down filter the quality of name that matches my criteria. And that's not through like I'm not talking about like filtering expired domains or whatnot. I'm talking about like generating like looking at domains that are available and then in breaking them down in order to determine, whether the keywords that I'm using match the criterias that I know um, are selling.
Well, hold on. Before we go to Laser, who, it's one thing to say, hey, I like we talked about with Laser before, we loved, these four-letter ending in AI or things like that. So these are aftermarket, and I can see people going back. But to be able to hand register 4,000 and still you think you're going to get another 4,000, and you said they're all .com. Okay, so I know they're 2, 3 word, but basically it's some tech that you're adding on to it that just happens to be about. I did the same thing years ago when I thought, get 3-letter plus like TV, and then all of a sudden you realize there's hundreds of them, if not thousands. There's something, but 4,000 is just, very interesting to me because that tells us there's, you're using, I don't know what type of keywords or terms, but maybe brand with something. So there is a similarity to all of these, right? There is a similarity to all the ones that you.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some experimental stuff as well, and as well as the .com stuff is less experimental, but there's also I registered 100 .energy names after tweeting about how or doing a little dive into the data on raising.fi that showed that there were in the last 6 months 25, 26 .energy names that were that companies used and raised money on, and you know, there was about the same number of energy.com names, which is shocking. Like, I think that most people would have expected way more energy.com than .energy, right? I didn't even know. That most people probably didn't even know about .energy. But like, here's the thing. Again, like, I can't comment on whether or not .energy is a good investment until I have them myself and see if they generate sales, because the people that are doing this and that are finding angles like in naming and investing in various TLDs or various keywords, they're not reporting retail sales to NameBio. Why would they? That would be silly, right? Especially if it's an untapped market where they're able to register names in bulk, register 100 names, and sell 2 or 3 every year, and make, I don't know, 15,000 in profit for every 100 names that they register or whatever, right? So you in at the end of the day, you have to be willing to gamble your money on some of these theories.
Well, let me just tell you. So I had Cloverleaf Energy
So
in
I
my
wanted
cart
to
from
ask
3 days
how
ago.
many
Hold
domains
on.
of
I'm telling
this
one thing, then I'm going to
4,000 are
throw it
geo
to you.
domains?
Hold on.
Zero.
Um,
They
you,
are all brandable?
Sure. Yeah. Brandable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I
What
just
was the
said I
question?
just registered cloverleafenergy.com. It was a drop, and only because there's dozens of companies that use that term, but it was because of some of the posts the other day about energy, and I was just happened to look through expireddomains.net, and I saw Cloverleaf Energy, and I don't care if that's long, don't care for it too much, but when I realized literally more than a dozen companies use it, and they're pretty big companies. I thought I didn't care. I'll buy it for $30, and I forgot to buy it. It was in my cart, so I looked at it just now while you were talking, Josh. I got it for 11. All right, Laser. I know you're dying to say something to Josh about spilling secrets. Go ahead.
Um, well, I think I know what Josh may be registering, but I don't want to, because I'm plugging in names and I'm running across DNX landers, which is telling me I'm on the right path potentially, and I'm like, oh shit, it's a DNX lander. That's a signal to me. I guess I spoke about this maybe a week or two ago. Is I was thinking about the keywords quantum and the keyword fusion, for like quantum technology, and then fusion for fusion energy. But I also think fusion, I just like fusion because it sounds cool. It sounds nice to say. It's fusion, 2 syllables, quantum, 2 syllables. And so I was breaking out, I'm doing a little bit of like AI vibe registering, a little bit of AI generation, like, hey, AI, here's my keywords or my sectors, spit out 500 2word.com ideas, and then I do a bulk search. And the whole I mean, we all know quantum for quantum energy, or not quantum energy, but like quantum technology. And then I think fusion is just it's a technology that people speculate about, but I'm thinking a few years out, 5 years out. But yeah, those are some of the two keywords I particularly was interested in, was quantum and fusion.
There's no 4,000 plus another 4,000. Josh is onto something that's weird. I mean, something. Anyway, how do you
I'm
find
not.
4,000
I
plus
mean,
another?
I'm not particularly. I'm not particularly concerned with with um the prefix, really, if that's what you want to call it. In this case, the brand. What is more important for me is finding the right suffix.
So you really don't feel there's enough for everybody
Once
not until you're
8,000
done.
is not going to be enough.
Yeah, he's like, there's
Yeah,
5,000
I
hamburgers in
think
front of him. He's like, until I'm done
I
eating.
do think there is. That's why I share more willingly than anyone in the space. I mean, it's just that uh if I say for verbatim exactly how I'm going about like buying domains, then I mean, that I might as well just shoot myself in the head.
It is interesting. 4,000.com. I mean, you've given us enough. It's just interesting. But after you get the next 4,000, then you can tell us. By then, somebody's going to know. And Laser's alluding, like, I think I sort of know. I hope so. Somebody should. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
but
there's all sorts of reports that
like,
are going.
well, I mean, let's circle back a year from now. I might tell you that I sold none of them, and then you'll be like, idiot.
Yeah, I'm more interested in how you're pricing these. I'm assuming that you're looking at maybe whatever, selling as many of them as you can. So what are your pricing on this?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question as well. I mean, again, I'm exploring areas that I don't have 100% knowledge in yet, and one of the things that I want to do is, like, when I register names, I'm specifically trying to appeal to buyers that are comfortable spending at least, for 4 grand. Like, I'm not particularly interested. The numbers don't make as much sense to me when you're registering a name and it only appeals to buyers that want to spend, $1,000 or $2,000. So I mean, where am I pricing these names? Mostly in the 3 to 4K range.
Yeah, sub 5K makes sense. The hand edge to sub 5Ks, that's exactly what Arif and all these guys do also.
But again, like just to be clear, like the names that I'm registering are the type of names that I would buy in closeouts if I saw them in closeouts. Like I'm not of the 4,000 domains that I bought, I can tell you that I would have bought all of them if I saw them at closeouts.
If you
Wow.
said 40, I'd think, okay, makes sense. 400, I think that's a stretch.
There's
4,000
one
is
other
just
guy, I don't know
a
if you
lot.
guys know Sten from, he's
Sure.
the guy who's the top seller on Atom.
Yeah.
He wrote a whole thesis on branding and how he hand registers his names, right? Most of them. He's got, I think, about 15,000 now. And he's making up words. He's creating a whole different, like sounds like and looks like and could be, and, those kind of words. And he does a phenomenal job. I mean, I've read that thing thrice. I still don't think I have 100% handle because he's got a PhD. The level he's writing it at is way beyond me. And I'm not a linguistic expert. He's got a PhD in linguistics.
He's a smart dude, and like he shares a lot as well. He's really good at sharing, and but again, he's not sharing exactly what his process is. He's got someone that works for him that is generating lists of options for him based on various criteria that he's given this person, and then that person provides him a list, and then he goes through that list manually and decides from there which ones he wants and what he doesn't. So like everyone, we can talk about the ins and outs of domain investing to the cows come home, but everyone needs to develop their own process.
Yeah, there's going to be no mimicking. Even if Sten gave up every secret, it's just his passion and his knowledge. You're not going to be able to mimic it. Same with you, Josh.
You won't be able to mimic it. In fact, if you go and read that paper which he's written,
I did.
It's quite detailed. It's like pretty long. I think it's about 20, 30 pages or something. And it's very detailed. But like I said, I mean, I think, it's not a comprehension problem for me. It's more of a seeing it from his eyes. It's very difficult. You have to have his expertise to see it from his eyes.
So, Josh, I'm guessing with 4,000 names, you didn't do your usual process of like checking each one on LinkedIn or all these other places. You're just confident enough in the word combinations that you feel that your sell-through and price point will work.
I've at this point, I'll be honest with you, I've spent so much time looking at SLDs that are registered in more than a certain amount of extensions that I literally know them all off by heart.
Yeah. Okay.
We were taking
Todd, get Paul up. He was talking about starting a 4L.com fund.
Yeah, we were talking about that, but I wanted to say, Josh, we were trying to get hints from you. You see everybody asking you questions, and then when you said, I'm exploring areas where I don't have 100% knowledge, I thought, that's now he's widening to we can't believe. I mean, okay, he's throwing us off there. Okay, well, Raghu, you were up here. You wanted to say something. It's nice to see you. It's always nice to have a celebrity in the room. What's going on?
No. Thank you very much. And you call me crazy, eh? And I'm not talking because this room is recorded, and I'm done speaking.
Did I say crazy? I thought I said cuckoo. Cuckoo.
Yeah,
Cuckoo.
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Bradley, what's going on?
Hi there. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Josh, and Arif, and Samit, and everyone on here, Raghu. I wanted to ask you, Josh, about first of all, I totally think it's cool that you're giving hints and you're sharing, and you're excellent at sharing, but how you're doing it is your own business, and that's your own individuality that you can't give that away, particularly to domainers who will grab whatever they think is hot. My question is, how long have you been accumulating this list before you decided to buy them?
That's a good question. So like I would say that I haven't had a huge portfolio, but I have been learning over the last 10 years on what sells and what doesn't sell, from both my portfolio and from people that I've networked with. And as the years go by, you can start to see more and more patterns that become more and more predictable. And I think that scaling with some of the uncertainties around domains and domain investing can sometimes be a little bit scary. It's probably something that's held me back a little bit in the past. And then, taking the time, and it does take time to develop a process in order to do things at scale is not easy either. But I would say that the names that I'm buying now are a result of a result of compiling all of that data and then analyzing it and then simply going to simply bulk searching for names that are available for registration that meet those criterias. And I guess I'm somewhat surprised that that some of them were available. I think that one thing that I noticed was that the further most of the names that were available were registered in the past and dropped, and the best ones are typically names that were dropped within the last 365 days.
God, I've dropped so many. Hey, hold on. We're going on for another 30 minutes, but I want to get to UFO. He's been patient. What's going on? What comments do you have today?
No, I just wanted to. One of the questions was asked, and I talked about this in the last space about the price points because I told you guys that I'd registered, I think, like 5,000 names last year, and most of them were at this .com special pricing. And I wanted to just ask Josh, even though he said he would buy them at closeouts, I think that like for example, I just bought 1,000 names last week, right? All .coms, 659, but in that
Yes.
strategy, the registrars only have sometimes it's $7, $8, $9, whatever it is. But I think it's so important that every dollar less than just the standard when there's no other specials. Let's just say all else is equal, you could do .coms for, let's say, $10 or $10.50 or 11, right? With the promo specials are such a huge advantage when you're trying to experiment or trying to add these names, because basically if you're looking at 650 against 11, I mean, you're almost getting two names for one. And that's when you really, I think, if you're going to try this, you need to really specialize when the pricing is at that low of a level. Now, the only downside to NameBright, where I'm assuming you're getting them because I am there as well, is that no fast transfer, no CEDO MLS. But at this price point, I mean, if it's decent, people will still find it. But it's worth the downside of losing the searchability or the lack of partner networks. But I've also tested some of these names at different registrars, and even the standard network still is pretty good for this. But I just think it's so important that people need to understand that, in my opinion, that especially if you're not as advanced as Josh, or that it makes sense every dollar less than what you could have got it. Take advantage of the promo pricing. That's just one thing I want to chime in with. If you are going to try it, not saying it can't be done at 10 or 11, but you're just you're increasing your risk reward and your, I guess, break even points a lot more significantly when it's almost half of what it would be anywhere else.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Josh, where are you getting these? Are these named right? And what is the promo? How can the crowd get names for 650?
That it was. I'm not sure if it's still going on. I think it was as of yesterday, so I think
I
it
just
still
did it
is.
yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. They're just, if you've got an account at NameBright, then you can register .coms at $6.50 or whatever it is. I think $6.29 and then $6.59 with tax. I think it is.
Yeah, 659. Yep. I just have one more question, if you don't mind, Josh. So, what's the this is the other kind of catch-22. Let's say you're on, drop catch and the name's going to be pending deleted. Let's say, well, the 1:45 Eastern time. Let's just say tomorrow. What is the? I don't know if you drop catch anymore, but it's pretty tedious. So I found myself
Well,
trying to figure out, okay, what name do I have to grab a minimum?
why is my
The
volume
discount
going
club at
down?
13, which is the lowest you can put in, or do I just I create my list and just I have like let's say 50 names every day. I'll look at maybe 100, and then I'll basically look at whenever they drop that time, put it in and register it. But what's the fine line between grabbing it at, let's say, this example 13 or at 650? I'm just kind of curious how you view if it's worth it at 13, obviously you probably grab it, but there's got to be some that you're like, you know what, if it slips through the
Checking
cracks and nobody
volume.
puts a back order, I can just pick it up on the
Checking
night.
volume.
Yeah, dude. I mean, how many times how many times have you like minimum of like back ordered a name for, I don't know, 15, 13 or whatever it is, and it gets taken by partner, and then you kind of like wish that you just back ordered it at 59. Like, it happens to me a lot. I would I hedge on the side now of just buying at $59 most of the time.
For any listeners on YouTube,
Unfortunately,
yes, I
there's
know
literally
I'm talking over
always
people right
one
now.
other
I'm just checking
person
volume. Fucking thing.
that seems to like the same names that I do. Surprise, surprise, right?
G name
But
seems to be really strong though. I don't know if how much you looked into this, but I started researching back or drop catching recently, and starting. It's a different skill set in its own, but G name is just a powerhouse, and a couple other people that I've learned, and I've also learned too that when I didn't get the name, I went to Who Is, and I'm like figuring out like there's some domainers in Europe and overseas that have set up. I don't know how they do it, but they have their own
yeah,
services, and they're sharp and they're quick. So I mean, sometimes when there's a name, and I'm like, I'm not gonna get this fucking name at a regular, but I'll just put it in at 59 back order, and then if drop catch does get it, then it'll go to auction. And but otherwise, yeah, the worst is when you put like discount club and you put like 25 or 32, and then the winning bids like it'll tell you 34 or 35, and you're just like, oh fuck, for $7 more. But I don't get off on a tangent, but yeah,
yeah.
I just wanted to know about that because I think that that's important when you're trying to find other places to find names that
G
but
name
it's
is
just there's so
certainly
large.
competing hard right now. I think that the discounts, I'm not getting as many discounts as I used to get. Like, and I think that the discounts in general, like, I think Dropcatch are losing a big, like a huge amount of that share. Like you said, I feel like if you put a discount back order in now, the chances of them catching it is not actually even that good. Like, a lot of the time I see my discounts go somewhere else, particularly G name. Um,
Yeah, they just added I think 60 more partner whatever. Like so they're at like I think 208 reg. I mean they're becoming the behemoth, and I don't know. I mean it's at some point. I mean this it's almost like if you're gonna spend all this time and you know that you probably won't get it. That's another thing I valuing in my time is like if it's so competitive and there's going to be multiple back orders, and I'm not saying not to do it, but I'd rather just probably spend my time trying to find something else. But again,
yeah,
it's a
I mean
catch 22. It's
the
tough.
problem is, dude, is that like some of the names that you can get for an uncontested $59 back order are really good,
Yeah, so you
right?
kind of have to just put it out there, even if you don't want to, because it's just the value is too good. Kind of what you're saying, basically. It's
Yeah, like some of the names that you can get for a $59 uncontested back order, um, are like names that you'll never ever get a chance to hand reg, like never. While for me, I feel like some of the names that I'll buy on like a discounted, um, are not as like unique, and like oftentimes like I can find similar names to hand reg. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think actually this is something where, and this is my opinion, but maybe you could opine on this, but it's been helpful to me. There's been names in auctions where let's GoDaddy or let's say it's a back order where I didn't get it or for whatever reason, but in the process of going through all that, it wasn't necessarily a waste because I'm able to think differently and say, you know what, I couldn't get this one, but I can get this, and it's pretty close, and it's definitely a lot less than what the other name sold for. And if the other name was so competitive, most of the time it's going to be priced relatively higher. So then it's like, you know what? I'm actually kind of glad I didn't get that name in a sense because I can find a cheaper alternative that will have I'll be a different alternative to that name, pun intended, that's at a much more attractive price point relative to the ROI. It might take longer to sell because maybe it's not as good as the one I was bidding on, but for risk reward, the asymmetric upside is a lot better than
Yeah. Like
so.
here's one that just got caught that's in my drop catch cart right now. And I like I think that I would have preferred to put a discount back order on this one, but I also know that I also know that like this one is not slipping. This one is not slipping through the cracks, despite the fact just because like people are starting to get more aware, and that's kudos, like kudos to you, kudos healthcare.com. And like I don't know, like it feels like it should be a discount back order, but at the same time, I would rather just secure it for $59 because it's just one of those combinations that works well. Like I know that Kudos Health isn't available, Kudos Wellness isn't available, blah blah. All of these things like they're not on the market, so I just like I want that name, so like I feel comfortable paying a little bit more for it.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. I think that sometimes, yeah, would you like to get it at 20 or 30 or 30, or whatever number you put in? But you know what? At 60, it still makes sense. So I kind of it's kind of one of those like you're overpaying, but you're not. And it's I'd rather overpay at this price points than saying you're spending instead of spending 5 or spending 8 or 9,000. That's so I think that this is another example where you're probably overpaying, but relative to the value you're getting in that name or what with the research. I mean, even at 60, I mean, I find myself in times where I'm like, man, if this was just like, I would just buy it right now if I could for that price. But, sometimes people, it's a back order is competitive. But I think that's another angle that I wouldn't recommend. I've just been down this rabbit hole for a few months, but take your time, figure out how the best of your ability. I'm still learning now, but it's competitive, but it's where you can find a lot of gems. And I think it's an underlooked part of the market, but it takes a lot of effort and time. And if people can't even put the time and effort to figure out how to just find just these .com 650 off the drop list, then you're probably not gonna want to spend time figuring out how to do all the other stuff because it's a little bit more advanced and sophisticated. But it's another way to help find names that most places, that's where you got to find them.
Hey, Samit, what was your interest in the four letter? I'm sorry, I wanted to ask him. You think I mean, you personally, but you think there's interest in a fund that would be focused on four letter? I'm sorry, I'm jumping to a different topic, but I know Samit brought it up and he was listening
No,
to.
no, I honestly don't think
All right.
there is anything there. Paul was talking about it. That's why I asked you to get him up. But I'm not very convinced about that. I believe every domain is individual. Uh, it should be evaluated individually. I don't believe in this. Like cool.com is a four-letter.com. So is jqzv.com. You can't really compare the two. The only thing common in them is their four letters, like, humans or a tiger is an animal and so is a mouse. But it's just an animal. You can't really categorize them in segments. So I'm not very convinced about it. That's what I was telling Paul, but he seems to think different.
Well, if you could buy 1,000 of them at $75 each, so that's 75,000. Do
I
you
could have
think?
hand registered
No, I
80,000
know
of
that.
them.
I'm asking you if you could buy 1,000 at $75 each right now, and if you individually sell them, you could probably sell them for $100, 120. If you buy 1,000, there's going to be some in there that are probably better than the absolute floor. But let's assume. So, would you buy 1,000 of them now? Not you. You might not buy any,
No,
but a
no, I
thousand for
wouldn't.
$25 each. What fucking price would you hand register four letter? I know people don't like them. I'm just curious because there is a floor
No,
to
no.
them
I'm
for
actually
$100.
knowing what I know now, Todd. I'm going exactly in the opposite direction. That's why I said I agreed with what Josh said.
Yeah,
Quality will always trump quantity. If a
I'm
domain, I wouldn't spend 50 grand on a domain, but if I could get a domain of that quality in a budget that I can afford, I would much rather buy one domain at 5,000 than buy 50 domains at $100 each. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean it does, and basically people at certain prices you're like just not interested. So even if you could buy, I'm just getting at if we saw if I was selling you or any Josh, would you buy a four letter at $20 if it was a shitty one, or if there's just some are so shitty you wouldn't even want it at 20?
I mean, yeah, I would take a 20 just purely to sell to the next guy for 80.
Right. I mean, there's at some point, but so you're right. I mean, you made a good, that was my point is only if it's so fucking low, and I agree with you, Summit. I agree. Only if it's so drastically low that you think, and then of course, if it's a CVCV, um, then you might think, okay, would you pick it up at 2,000, no questions asked. If it's the worst of worst, like Josh said, maybe pick it up at $20, um, no questions asked. But the point is, at least with, um, I can tell you, with a lot of domain names, you're not going to be able to just flip it for $80 or $90 on Name Pros. So if somebody, I guess the point is if you were given certain domain names and then you go to Name Pros, you're going to realize, okay, at least 4-letter, you're going to be able to get $100, probably $99. So you do, if you have $100 in it, you're probably going to be able to recover your money. I guess the point is, it's just so few domains even enter the area where you have a floor price. So to know that, and I can understand people saying, well, yeah, but you can't get 4-letter for $20, Todd, so it doesn't matter. And that is true. I mean, so I can understand why. Listen, it's sort of like telling somebody who's a fucking runner, uh, how bad running, you don't like running and you're not a runner. It's like, we know, yeah, it hurts. We know we're in this space, so we know the negatives to it. But that's why we try to figure out, is there there was always this floor. It's never went up. So we just look now at 3-letter. If you can get 3-letter, well, I'll ask Josh, because you would be looking at what is the price of the crappiest 3-letter. If it finally came on your fucking email and they said, I'm asking 5,000 and it's QX fucking whatever, would you buy it for $5,000?
Yes.
Right. I mean, and I guess I'm not trying to prove any point that there's just sometimes there's even the crappiest of crappy. You wouldn't do that with a made up word that's spelled wrong. You're thinking, and I go, but what if it's 2,000, 20, even $10? You're going to say no. We know there's floors on 3letter.com and 4letter.com. It just pisses people off because they think, well, I don't consider $80 a floor. All right, I got you, but it is a floor. So that's why if you can, pick some things up at, it'd have to be real low. But I can understand. I can understand
I think
what.
you could. I think you could probably break that floor, pretty easily. If you just flooded the market with shitty 3-letter.coms, that floor would break down pretty
Yeah,
fast.
someone was selling 10 3letter.coms for 125,000. Nobody bought them.
Yeah, but I agree
The
with you.
point is, Todd, you don't want a job, man. You sold in bulk. Why? Because you didn't want to sit and sell them one by one. You could have very well sold them one by one. Okay, one by one will take you time. But what are you trying to achieve with this? I don't get. And I've told Paul the same thing also. I mean, he's just sitting there watching his Bitcoin going up and
Summit, no one's launching anything, and those that we're talking about different areas of domain investing, and I'm with you thinking sometimes specific areas, no, alone not attractive, and sometimes not even attractive being part of a larger portfolio. So we're just exploring things now, thinking, is there anything there? But with 3-letter, yeah, Paul's telling you about 4-letter, but we're thinking mostly about 3-letter, and the difference is, like I agree with Josh that if somebody flooded the market with 3-letter, it probably would hit the floor. That's what they've done with 4-letter. I know, because a lot of this shit was the stuff I sold. A couple thousand of them, I seen them flooded the market, and they're trying to get they're getting less money than some people paid me for the fucking things. Because what they're probably trying to do is
no, but
keep some of the good ones.
overall they're making more money because some of the names are going for $650.
Sure.
I saw your list.
Yeah.
And I've seen them being sold on WhatsApp and Name Pros and all that, right? And I know the people who are selling them also.
Yeah, me
They are
too.
making
The point
money.
is,
They've made money.
yeah, well, you're right. Well, they're on some of them, and some they're losing, and that's why. So what I sold is right in between the low that they're selling for and the number you're talking about. So let's just say 300. Okay, $300 for 600 names. You do the math, but the point is, $300 for 80 names for 120. And it's like, yeah, so there was some in there that I knew I probably couldn't sell individually for 300. Some in there I knew I could sell more than 300. But that's why, I mean, you that was the only interest I had, selling in bulk, because one, yeah, it's a lot of work to sell individually, but then a lot of those were going to sell. I did it on Cedo, $99. Some names that just, anyway, no
Something,
reserve. Yeah,
something I think is different now is that there needs to have a meaning to the letters. I mean, the three letters are like an iconic thing, and you don't necessarily have to have a meaning per se as much as the four letter. The four letter without any meaning. But I think what might be interesting, I don't know anything about this except you could put the four letters into an AI and ask them to come up with an acronym. You know what I mean? That's something that's new.
sure. Bradley, we've
That's
done that.
not really new. There are sites like Acronomatic
Yeah.
and
And the truth is,
Acronym
four letters
Finder.
never
And
met it. Sama, you're right. Four letter never got
What
there. It never got
Todd,
there.
Todd,
There's too many. But us investors, I'll tell you why I did it, was you're just hoping that short keystrokes mean something. It never did mean anything in this space. That's why there's three character that no one gives a shit. But I always thought that crappy letters would mean something in different parts of the world. They did for a couple years. I thought that would return. So people wonder, why are you fucking even fuck with that? Why would you even mess with those? Because I was thinking short keystrokes. I was thinking 450,000 is not a lot worldwide, and some of these letters that are crappy in the English speaking countries aren't in the others. And it almost gets there, but I'm willing to admit, right, it just always falls short. And Brad was right. Three letter, it's even the crappiest ones. It's almost like a vanity license plate. Three letters still is pretty cool when you see it on the side of a truck, even if it's letters that aren't great. But four letter just never went over the hump. But there's
Todd,
still a possibility
Todd,
in the
I
future
never
for short
understood
keystroke.
this from day one, okay? And I'm being honest
Yeah.
about this four-letter game, all right? And therefore, I never acquired a lot of four-letter domain name. And my question to you is this: knowing all that with a three-letter difference and a four-letter difference, okay? Taking a bulk, either buying it or registering it by hand or whatever it is, bulkly. Why would you do that? Like, why would you buy 100 four-letter domain names for $50, where you have no idea what's going to how it's going to sell? Why would anybody would do that? And that is the reason I never took four letters when I had a chance, and I would never take it in bulk. I will take it one at a time. We'll think about it. AI is today, yes, but yesterday AI was not there. So you have to figure out yourself how do you occur of this four letters.
Well, I was a
But
seller in bulk, so
why would
you need to
anybody
ask
would
the guys that
pay
bought from me.
crazily to
I
put
sold in bulk.
letters in
Okay,
bulk?
you
Why
got
would
me.
anybody would buy? I don't understand.
I know what I
So
just told you
I
is I
think
I
was a
have to give
seller.
you a medal for today's comment. Seriously.
no, I think a lot of it. Josh was saying, when you discover something online that you think might have some legs in the future, or you just like it and have a vibe on it, you take a risk. You know what I mean? And you got to go with it. And it's not like I'm not going to make a risk. I'm gonna analyze this name so much before I buy it. You know what I mean? There's a in between space, and you gotta go for the intuitive vibe sometimes. And I can understand Todd and
Well, then
anyone
don't cry about it.
wanting more
Then
than
don't
just.
cry about it.
Ragu. Let me try to
I'm
get here.
sorry, what's
No,
that?
no one's crying about it. Ragu. I went from 3,500 down to a few dozen. So I'm not. I'm like just playing devil's advocate here. I'm one who believes. Almost. I'm not the biggest believer in them. I already did it, made it out alive, and I'm letting somebody else fuck with it. So yeah, I went from 3,500 four letter down to a couple dozen, and of course I think I got some okay ones that I've kept, and that's a whole different story. It's not like owning in bulk. I was the seller in bulk, so you'd want to ask, why do those other people? What I'm revisiting is, all right, I did register a lot back in 2008, 2009. Some we talk about 2010, 2011, because they were dropping when everybody was buying, registering them. They went out, and then all of a sudden we waited a year or two, and then they started dropping, and we were getting. Now it's like, is there an opportunity there at all? I can hear most of the voices say no, and I almost feel the same way. But I'm like, still, I can't help it. I made, it was successful for me. Is there any opportunity? Is there going to be an attraction to
There's always
short.com? Go ahead.
no, no. There's always going to be opportunity, Todd. The problem is what I started with that, right? I used to buy. So the reason I got into domaining was I used to buy four-letter.coms, create small mini sites on them, sell them on eBay. This was 2002. I did that for about 2, 3 years. They used to sell for 500, 300, 800 in that range. And it was a good business. 2005 or something, I realized, and I was buying those four-letter.coms on eBay itself for 20, 30, 40 bucks. 2005 or 2006, suddenly the prices of domains which I liked went to 300 and 400. And there's no way that I did the math even then, right? There's 476,000, whatever, 900 odd domains. So there's got to be more out there. That's how I found NamePros. That's how I found DN Forum. And then for 3 years, that's all I did. Sit and flip names. The whole idea of this is to raise your game. What Josh is doing with these 4,000 names is it's a test he's running. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, he's going to drop them. That's a risk he's taking. That's another 40, maybe 30, 40,000. Assuming he buys 8,000 names at 650 each, that's $50,000 down the drain. He can afford to do that. Not very many people should be doing that. But what I'm trying to say is, in my case, I sold 3,000 names. I'm not kidding, in 3 years. And most of them were quick flips. Buy them for 10, 15, sell them for 20, 25, whatever. I've sold CVCY domains for $45 each. I wish I'd just held on to those. But at that time, that was cash flow for me. The whole point with .tv and with .co and shit like that, which no self-respecting domainer would touch back then, is help me raise my game to the level where in 2015 onwards, I've just been selling 8, 10 names a year. And I'm doing more revenue than I ever did. More than when I was doing 1,000 domains a year. I don't know. I don't get the quantity game. Again, I'm an aberration probably, but that's just me.
What's up, David?
Hi, Todd. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to comment that when you're talking about four-letter domains, you're talking about the lowest quality of letters that at plain sight have no meaning. They are difficult to remember. Domains that would have to have a very weird acronym in another language. And those drop at drop catch every day. At drop catch, you can see every day 1, 2, 3 dozens of four-letter domains that people got tired of holding. They didn't want to even pay the $10 to renew them, and they dropped them. And most of them, with so many eyes at drop catch, some of them you see them go for 80, 100, 105, 110. Maybe one outlier out of somewhere it gets to $200. But I have been 10 days, very little time put it into this. But I have a friend of mine that has a very, very big product, and he wants to rebrand it into a 3 or a 4-letter domain. And go to GoDaddy, spend 10 minutes, and go and see the quality, medium quality, high quality 4-letter domains. Some of them even pronounceable that do not pass the radio test. Listed for minimum offers of 20, 30, 40, 50, $100,000. 3-letter domains that are good letters. They have 150, 200,000 minimum offer. So, we have to be clear about what we're talking. You sold in bulk many 4-letter domains. I have a number of 4-letter domains that, just for the sake of the conversation, they are such a good letters that I wouldn't let them go for $5,000. Just for the sake of this conversation. I wouldn't let go none of these 4-letter domains that I own for $5,000. So within the huge spectrum of 4-letter domains, never mind pronounceable 4 letters. Those are at GoDaddy for $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. I have been looking for a 4-letter already for 10 days. Something at a decent price that makes sense for my friend. I haven't found one, Todd. One. And I know what I'm looking for. And he's not going to pay $150,000 for a 4-letter domain. So we have to compare apples to apples. There are some shitty domains, 4 letters, that I wouldn't give you $25 for that. QLYW.com. What do I do with that?
Oh, that's the Chinese premium.
Yeah, go ahead. Find the Chinese willing to buy it.
Chinese
So
premium.
doesn't matter. You know what we're talking.
Right. And
Why would people be every day letting go so many names, 4 letters that drop catches? It's picking them up.
domain investors, and if you can go to name bio, search drop catch, search the 4, and you're right on. There's
Yeah. But
$114, $111, $104,
okay,
102. I'm
well,
talking in the last
there is
week.
a market for everything, but you know very well that they may be holding it for the next 5 years, and if they want to make $20, they may find somebody
Sure.
who's going to
RBIK 560. We wonder why it's not great. IWLS was 503. IPZZ
fine.
280. But the point is,
Those
you're right. There are some that are going to be those low ones. Here in the last week, GLCN.org. I don't know why that's 650, but like good letters, PGLR.com. 650.
so somebody
DUXJ. Terrible.
listen,
275 on Dropcatch.
I know what they do.
But
They go and put a little bit of time, and they find a law office that has 4 partners, and those 4 letters that you just mentioned.
I've sold thousands. No law office ever gets those, so fuck it. That's I've never sold to law office. So people think that when they think of acronyms, normally it's somebody with. But the point is, so I think most everybody agrees here that right, it's just well, there's a big difference, but they're just crappy 4-letter. Or have been crappy way back in the day. Should have never been registered, and still worth the same thing. It's funny
Look
that
at
they're worth.
GoDaddy
They
right
still are.
now.
The floor was about 100 though. That is weird. I was going to say a lot of you folks here, you could put your names, let them drop, and they wouldn't even get a bid on them at drop catch. But yet people love to say that sucks
Exactly.
because they just don't.
Listen,
Yeah.
Well,
look at GoDaddy.
could you
Look
say
at
the same
GoDaddy.
thing about 4-letter .ais? What about that? That's a whole new thing. But could you say the same thing about the 4-letter crappy, but if it's a .ai?
Well, there are so many options on 4 letters with .ai that yes, you can go and look for some pronounceables or some great domains, but the big just made up words of letters with no meaning in a .ai, I think it's a waste of time. Now, just for the sake of this, right now at GoDaddy, right now, this minute, it's got like 6 minutes to go. It dropped off.org, OFF.org. Yes, it may be somebody may want it. Off, it's not a very positive word. And there you have the auction at over $13,000. So, everything has a price depending for who. But lousy, crappy 4-letter domains, I even don't waste 1 second looking at
No,
them.
they were, and believe me, I know if we had this conversation fucking 10 years ago, they were going for $2,000, lousy, crappy ones. But it's weird, the domain business. So we are going to finish for today. Josh, didn't you pick up a 4letter.com in the last week? He's on to a good
Yeah.
life. Yeah, you did. And
Yeah, I did. But it
and
ended in AI, and
right,
the
had
first 2
meaning and
letters
so
were,
on. Yeah.
and it was rxai.com. So
Yeah.
like that's kind of a no, I wouldn't even categorize that in the
Yeah.
four
That's not a
letter.com.
4L.
Yeah.
That's not a 4L. That's
I know.
that's
I'm
a
the
great
one. I
name.
brought it up in one of the rooms
I
too.
know.
I knew you were
I'm
looking
just
at it
thought,
anyway, but we're fucking
Todd, I'm
closing
laughing
in.
because we've had this 4L conversation for years,
Yeah.
you and me. So I didn't say anything this time. I was just laughing the whole time. But the guys are all saying the same thing I am.
Yeah. Anyway.
And I got the lcsw.ai just 2 weeks ago. That means something,
Oh no,
possibly.
yeah, but so what? No one's gonna, be nice to it. And Josh still has to, sell his. Let's say the four letter, you can get into him at any price. Listen, I like the conversation because it just makes people, crazy. I'm obviously not enamored with 4L. Otherwise, I wouldn't have unloaded mine. Fucking, I unloaded them because I know, listen, I don't want to wait around. I don't want to wait around. I like 5 letter that are pronounceable much more than I like a 4 letter random, even though they sure treated me right before. But, that's why we're just saying, is there going to be opportunity in the future? Things
But
would have to,
Todd, isn't that an evolution of your own awareness
yeah.
too?
And I
That
got to go.
we
I got
all
a
have
call
to
in 2
learn
minutes.
from.
All right. Hey, I appreciate everybody being here. That's going to be it for today. We're here every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. It's the DNX show. Thanks. And you can listen to it on YouTube if you want. We have a stream there. All right. Everybody have a
Great show,
great rest
Todd.
of the day wherever you're
Thanks.
at. Take care.